Welcome to this explainer of the Grim Shadows universe. Let's get right into it because frankly, we don't have much time. I want you to think of yourself not just as a viewer today, but as a young shadow, a brand new recruit who desperately needs this urgent lore briefing before the clock completely runs out. This universe we're about to decode together, it's sprawling, it's incredibly dangerous, and it is deeply unforgiving. We're going to map out the lore, the major factions, and the sheer brutal survival stakes across 3 entirely distinct realities. So get ready, the clock is already ticking.
Welcome, young shadow. We don't have much time, they'll find us soon. You know, that's the exact tone of our source material, and it honestly perfectly sets the stage for everything we're about to explore. I really need you to immerse yourself in that level of desperation right now. Because look, this isn't some shiny universe full of noble knights and easy, clean victories. Absolutely not. It's a reality defined by scraping by, surviving against this impossible, constantly encroaching darkness. They are coming, whoever they happen to be in any given era we talk about today. And trust me, your only defense is knowledge. Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start by breaking down the 3 worlds as a whole. Then we hit World 1, Tanalon. After that, we're jumping to World 2, the Darkhold, followed by World 3, the Carian Empire. And finally, well, you're going to have to choose your destiny.
So tracing through the timeline, you can immediately see this very clear chronological descent into darkness. We're talking about 3 distinct eras, or 3 distinct worlds, that are completely bound together by blood, time, and, well, total madness. And the kicker? Each one is progressively darker than the one before it. We kick things off with Tanalon, which is this gritty age of swords and shadows. Then, boom, the timeline thrusts us way forward to the year 2175 in our own Sol system, the Age of Chrome and Void. And finally, we hit the end of times, the age of the Carian Empire, where humanity is quite literally just a graveyard civilization. Think of this timeline as your ultimate survival guide through the madness.
All right, Section 1, World 1, Tanalon, the Age of Swords and Shadows.
Now, what's really interesting here is who we actually follow in this grim realm where empires are just rising and rotting beneath unseen gods. Enter the Grim Shadows Company. And let's be clear, these guys aren't your typical noble heroes. They're this chaotic, mercenary brotherhood bound entirely by coin rather than any sense of honor. You've got Starfaller, this deadly assassin literally born of shadow and starlight. Then there's Titan Starax, a dwarf warlord forged in stone and sorrow, carrying an axe called Bloodsong that actually sings for the dead. You've got Cain Greythorn, an immortal bounty hunter cursed to wander between hunger, madness, and decay. Add in Dorian Bloodraven, a former dark elf slave turned master of lies, and round it out with Sorrowblade and Foolsblade, 2 assassins exiled by their own people just because they stubbornly refused to die when their time was up. What a crew, right? And to truly understand just how incredibly broken these characters are, you have to look at Starfaller's main source of power, the Eye of Shadows. I mean, this isn't just some shiny magical trinket. It's a living, parasitic artifact. It literally feeds on Starfaller, constantly whispering to him from the dark, taking this massive, horrific toll on his body and mind, while simultaneously keeping him alive. It perfectly highlights one of the core themes of Tanalon. Power always, always comes with a horrific, consuming price. These so-called heroes, they are dangerous, totally compromised, and perpetually walking on a razor's edge. Yet, despite all their fractured, messed up natures, all their paths ultimately lead to one singular destination, the city of our quest, the shining jewel of the dreaming empire of Dor. It's this wild place where gods scream and monsters dream. But why does this actually matter for us? Well, because even though every single member of the Grim Shadows Company is broken beyond repair, each one is a killer, practically a villain in their own right. When darker things finally rise to devour the light in our quest, even the shadows have to fight for the dawn. Make no mistake, they're literally the only shield this world has left.
Moving right along to Section 2, World 2, the Darkhold, the Age of Chrome and Void.
The barriers of time completely shatter and violently pull us forward to the year 2175, an era where mankind now fully rules the Sol system. They reached for the stars, right? But what they found out there was utterly horrifying. The void is absolutely everywhere. Out in the deep, freezing darkness of space, humanity stumbled upon the black monoliths, and that discovery, it taught them exactly what was waiting in the void. Ancient nightmares. The old ones are slowly, quietly waking up. The universe isn't just vast and empty, folks. It is actively hostile, and it is starving.
So how do you even fight an impossible existential threat like that? Well, humanity built the Darkhold Foundation. It's this massive, secret war machine buried deep beneath every government and corporation. Just look at this intense hierarchy. At the absolute top of the food chain, you have Checkmate. He's this shadowy figure who moves his agents around like literal chess pieces from a hidden mobile fortress. And he's flanked by his enforcer, Talisman, a guy whose very voice can start or stop entire wars. Right below them is the Tier 1 Black Arrow program, the absolute undisputed elite. Beneath them are the Tier 2 Shadow Ops, your snipers and assassins doing the heavy lifting. And finally, down at the bottom, you've got hundreds of TAC Ops soldiers and containment crews who are trained to fight literal cosmic nightmares with nothing but bullets and blind faith.
Let's zoom in a bit closer on that Tier 1 Black Arrow group, because these aren't just your standard issue soldiers. They are a fourth generation of super soldiers, simply called agents, and they're organized into highly specialized, incredibly lethal units. You've got Black Team, led by Reaper, featuring Ghost and Shadow. You've got Red Team, commanded by Werewolf. Backing him up are Reedem and Killjoy. And then there's Silver Team, led by Joker, alongside Gothic and Mad Hat. These guys are the best of the best, actively deployed into the absolute most dangerous operations just to keep the Void at bay. But the catch? Every single victory they manage to secure ends up costing another human soul.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive central conflict happening within humanity itself. On one side, you have the Darkhold Foundation, sacrificing absolutely everything to protect mankind. But on the other side, you have the true masters of the Sol system, the megacorporations. We're talking massive entities like Sol-Fed Dynamics, Arctic Systems, and Varix Industries. And get this, they are actually building the monsters while publicly denying they even exist. They literally create the sickness just so they can turn around and sell you the cure. Because honestly, why save the world for free when you can monetize the apocalypse for a better quarterly return, right? So while Darkhold is fighting this brutal, endless war to save humanity, the megacorps are busy selling out humanity's future to the highest bidder.
Which brings us to Section 3, World 3, the Carrion Empire. The End of Times. As you can probably guess, that long war couldn't last forever, Shadow. Eventually, mankind's grand empires entered their twilight. The very machines they relied on for survival ended up becoming their gods, and those machine gods demanded blood. This triggered a horrific dark age that plunged the entire universe into sheer despair. And what eventually rose from those ashes? The Carrion Empire. It is a literal graveyard civilization built directly on top of the ruined, decaying bones and the forgotten knowledge of humanity's former golden age.
In this twisted twilight era, society is ruled by the houses, with each one based on the spirit of a specific animal. But here's the thing, their numbers are rapidly dwindling. Originally, there were 13 houses governing the very last worlds of man. 3 of them completely fell into rebellion and darkness. So now, only 10 remain. Just 10. And these final 10 houses rule everything under the incredibly strict, dogmatic laws of the Codex. It's this rigid, uncompromising set of rules that dictates peace, war, and literally every single social interaction. It's basically humanity desperately clinging to any sense of order in a universe that is just rapidly decaying around them.
And the craziest part? Even at the literal end of the world, humanity still cannot stop fighting itself. There's this intense ideological Cold War, raging between 3 primary factions. First up, you have the Craw Empire. They are aggressively pro-machine, seeking to destroy all living flesh, because they believe flesh is weak and only the machine is forever. On the exact opposite extreme, you have the Church. They are totally anti-tech, going around destroying forbidden technology and preaching that salvation only comes through absolute surrender. And caught right smack in the middle? The Guild of Engineers. They're just trying to survive in the dark, by hoarding these tiny fragments of lost science and selling small miracles to a totally desperate populace. They are all literally fighting each other to the bitter end, while the universe is actively collapsing right on top of them. Let's move to the next piece of this and see how it builds. Because the true horror of this final era is that the stars themselves are sick. Those black monoliths we talked about, they have fully awakened and they are incredibly hungry. Each one acts as this massive doorway into the void, devouring everything, even light itself. This phenomenon leads us straight to the void worlds. These are impossible, dead planets that shouldn't even exist in real space, ruled by these nightmarish, twisted creatures known as the Voidborn. And perhaps the most terrifying detail of all? These realms feature living ships. I mean actual vessels that breathe, think, and actively hunt for prey. They are literal nightmares given purpose, actively bleeding into our reality. So who actually stands against all of this? The Void Runners.
They are the absolute last scavengers of the forgotten and the forbidden, sailing their ships right through the cosmic ruins. Chief among them is Orion Bloodhunter, the captain of a ship called the Black Sun. Alongside his ragged crew of outcasts, he just jumps from one hellish scenario to another. It's a completely desperate existence where every single jump could easily be his last. But here is exactly why he matters. If his scavenging stops, if he ever stops running, the stars themselves will die. He is, quite literally, the very last light in an empty, dying sky.
Which brings us to our final section. Section 4. Choose your destiny. The void hungers.
Listen to me carefully, Shadow. You've seen it all now. You've seen the bloody, archaic swords of Tantalon. You've seen the desperate, corporate cyberpunk warfare of the Darkhold. And you've seen the absolute graveyard reality of the Carrion Empire. But here is the crucial point. The darkness is actively consuming all three of these eras as we speak. You cannot remain a passive observer any longer. We are entirely out of time. You have to decide where to make your stand. So, which will it be, young Shadow?